Now, FPL has been out for a couple of days now, and since my first draft video, I've been doing some tweaking, and I thought today would be the perfect day to share with you my new and improved FPL draft. Now, before we dive into my team, first of all, we're going to take a look at some data. But before that, I just want to say that if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 6,000 subscribers by the start of the new season. We can only do it with your help. So like I said, if you do enjoy any of the content, hit that subscribe button. First of all, I feel you have to start off whenever you're doing a draft to take a look at the fixtures. Obviously, I've been talking about this quite a lot in, some of my other draft videos. So obviously, I'm going to point out teams I will be targeting. But what we've got coming up is a defensive special looking at clean sheet odds. That's what we're going to do in a bit. But first of all, let's take a look at teams we should be targeting. Arsenal, probably not. I really don't think we should be maybe looking at Arsenal. I don't think the fixtures are that great from an opening five perspective. Villa away, Tottenham away, and City away in the opening five, not a good set for me. Aston Villa, on the other hand, great set of fixtures after match day 2. Even West Ham in one, realistically, if you could bench your asset for match day 2. So the likes of Ollie Watkins, Konza, Leon Bailey as well, starting to enter a few people's teams. Definitely some hot players to be taking a look at there. In terms of other teams, Chelsea after match day 2, again, they've got a really nice set of fixtures. So likes of Cole Palmer, Chilwell, Colwell, people like that. Definitely going to be entering teams. Palace have got a great start as well. So Eze, he's going to be in a lot of people's teams and for very good reason. Fulham after match day 1 as well. They've got Leicester and Ipswich, so a pretty nice run as well. West Ham, Nottingham Forest in between Newcastle and City, so make sure you just got players that you can bench around them. Liverpool probably arguably have one of the best starts to the season as well, so again, definitely worth considering some of their assets. Newcastle, pretty strong fixtures as well. Spurs opening 2, definitely worth a little bit of consideration. After that though, you probably would be looking to flog some of their assets. But what I wanted to look at today is some defensive data. This is all coming from 11fi. Go and check them out in the description. There will be a link to their Twitter. Obviously, they're posting some amazing data stuff as well. So this is the clean sheet odds, or kind of expected clean sheets over the opening 6 match days. So obviously a lot of us are going to be looking at defensive pairings with our 4.5 million defenders. A lot of us are going to be looking at which defenders maybe we should go for. I think this is a great metric to use, looking at expected clean sheet data, looking at what teams you should be looking to target and which ones you should be looking to avoid, or maybe even attack. So let's start off with some of the top ones. I don't think it's a real surprise to see any of the top 3 in there. Arsenal, obviously, with their strong defensive record last season, there's a reason they're expected to do quite well again this season. So the likes of Saliba and Gabriel definitely going to be in some people's teams. And you know what? 2.48 predicted clean sheets over the opening 6. I can understand why. City are in there, so that's a big plus for Gvardiol. Again, they were up there. I feel they were arguably super unfortunate not to have got more clean sheets over the course of last season. They were right up there for XG conceded. Just seem to randomly concede goals. Maybe this season they will be a little bit more kind of defensively astute and not concede as many. Liverpool up there, so the likes of Trent, Robbo, Van Dijk, Konate, Guehi, if he moves to that club as well, again, definitely should be on people's radars. Everton up there, which is, surprising, but, they've got some okay fixtures, and like you see, if you can get around some of the rotation with the 30, 32, 29, 32 in match days 1, 3, 5, and 6, this is what I mean. If you're looking for rotating defenders, there's definitely some ways where you can get pretty decent clean sheet odds. Mikalenko, probably the standout for them. Aston Villa, the opening few, a little bit difficult, but after that, Ezri Konza definitely becomes a great option at 4.5. Palace are in there, so Anderson, Munoz, the 2 goalkeepers, whichever one starts as well. Pretty good defensive data from them. Brighton enter the mix. A team I really didn't expect to see this high up in the clean sheet odds, but they are up there, so the likes of Verbergen, Dunk, definitely worth a little bit of consideration. Fulham, a team I think have some great opening fixtures, especially match day 2 and match day 3. Pretty good clean sheet odds for those 2 weeks as well. So the likes of Timothy Castagna and Robinson definitely entering the picture. And then finally, with Forest having 3 pretty good opening fixtures and a decent fixture in match day 6, the likes of Bolly, Morello, and Aina, definitely worth some consideration for the cheap defenders. Moving on to teams I think maybe we shouldn't be, so like invested in defensive wise. I've seen quite a few people with Dan Burn. They're down in 11th, 1.35. So maybe it's a little bit worth a little bit of consideration. Maybe looking at some of the teams higher up for clean sheet odds with your 4.5 million defenders. Another team I've seen quite a few people have as well is Spurs. I've seen quite a few Van der Veens kicking about and stuff like that. Ped Porros. Yes, the first two fixtures are great for the clean sheet odds. After that, though, they do take a nosedive. And with the change of bonus point system, it could potentially impact Ped Porro's ability to do quite well. And then Manchester United down in 15th. Now, I imagine this is taking some of the data from last season. I am expecting an improved Manchester United defence, but at the same time, the odds are definitely not there from a clean sheet perspective. So I think maybe going for the likes of Martinez, Onana and goal, there's probably better options over the opening couple game weeks with better fixtures. I've said this in a few videos. I don't think the United fixtures are that good, and I think they could struggle over the opening couple, especially defensively, bringing in new players. You know, they've got to get them ready, got to get them in the system, and hope that that system works as well off the back of a very, very disappointing season last year. So I think it potentially, and I'm going to say it, worth avoiding some of the Manchester United defenders and targeting some of the teams towards the top with the data. Right, let's move on. Let's take a look at my favourite cheap forwards. Obviously, these are kind of a big talking point as well. A lot of people looking at it with, if you know, they're trying to cram as many premiums into their teams. Obviously, cheap forwards, nice way to do it. Let's start off with Chris Wood. He's probably my personal favourite. As you can see, his XG per 90 pretty decent going for the big man. 15 goal contributions for him. Obviously, Awoniyi is back in training, so do, you know, be a little bit more cautious. I still think Wood starts the opening three, but I think his minutes might be slightly at risk. Awoniyi obviously is a very, very good player, but he's been dealing with injuries and personal issues, so I still think Wood starts the season unless Awoniyi absolutely slaps and cooks in pre-season. Then we might be looking at him rather than Chris Wood. João Pedro is the cheapest enabler we've got on the market at the moment, coming in at that 5.5 million. You know what? He's on penalties and had a pretty good season last year. 12 goal involvements, 0.53 expected goals. Yeah, it's pretty decent. But at the same time, there's rumours that he's not gone out to the Japan training squad, so it'd be interesting to see if he actually has. If he doesn't, then I definitely think that rules him out, and the likes of Armstrong and Vardy come in at that 5.5 million, who aren't on this list as well. And then finally, we've got Muniz, a player with, you know, okay-ish fixtures, Fulham, and definitely if you're going to be rotating this guy around. I do think, though, there is a slight risk of concern with all of these guys, to be honest, as well. It is the minutes risks. Obviously, there's a reason they've been priced at this price point, and it is because, you know, they're not 100% going to play 90 minutes every single week, but I definitely think these three forwards should all enter some thought and consideration if you are looking for a cheaper striker option. Right, let's move on to captaincy and kind of the premium assets. As you can see, we are using data from Fantasy Football Hub. If you want to sign up for a free 7-day trial, there is a link down in the description to go and do that. You can also get your team rated by their AI as well, absolutely free. Again, there is a link down in the description to go and check that out, so go and do that. Right, let's talk about Salah and Haaland. Now, a lot of people are potentially going out without these two guys, and I think that could be a big mistake, in my personal opinion, because what I think you've got here is the ultimate captaincy kind of matrix, switching between these two, identifying which one's going to turn up, which one's not, and kind of just flipping around with the captaincy rather than kind of... I think this is the thing, that these two are guaranteed results at points throughout the season. As you can see, 18 goals for Salah, 12 assists. It was actually his worst scoring season in 5 years, but he still managed to put up absolutely phenomenal numbers as well. The fixtures, some great ones in there. The Ipswich on the opening day, probably the best captaincy option in my opinion. Also, if you're not going without Haaland, Brentford at home in matchday 2, still a pretty good one. 3 is a little bit more difficult, but 4, 5 and 6 arguably are absolutely immense for Salah to be targeting. Obviously with Erling Haaland having a little bit of a dip there, but then obviously he comes back into the conversation with that matchday 2 one, arguably matchday 3, and whichever team is looking worse in terms of Brentford and Nottingham Forest, both teams at home. So then you could very easily target whichever one has started the season a little bit worse, maybe with performances or looking at data as well. So you've pretty much got just a nice kind of rotating captaincy options here. And then as you can see, after matchday 6, you've got Fulham, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth. What a run that is for Erling Haaland. Absolutely immense. He still managed to score 27 goals last year, picking up 8 assists, all within 31 games. games, I think his expected, not even his expected, his goal involvement per 90 was 1.23. Do you realise how ridiculous that is? Per 90 minutes, he is averaging 1.23 goal involvement. This for me is why I'm just going to stick with Haaland and Salah from the start. If they don't cook and if they don't perform, we could very easily switch off them. I think the plan would be to switch Salah to Saka round match day 5, match day 6, or even after match day 1. Take the captaincy points I get from him, if any, and then switch on to somebody like Cole Palmer. Same goes with Erling Haaland. If he's not cooking over the opening couple of weeks, then, you know, we've got that ability to downgrade. I just think it's going to be a lot harder for the people that don't have either of these guys in their team to kind of get up to them, especially for that game week 2 fixture against Ipswich. If Haaland pops off, that could be detrimental to your rank and your mini league for the rest of the season. But let me know what you think about that down in the comments section, and let's go and take a look at my updated draft. Now, starting off our team, let's first of all talk through the goalkeepers. Now, if you've watched any of my other content, you know, any of the other mock drafts or first draft I did a lengthy section on goalkeepers. So if you want a little bit more detail on why I'm picking a 4.5 and a 4 million, there will be, there is videos that I've already done, and there will be videos coming up in the future explaining this. But let's have a brief overview of that. Let's start off with Flecken in goal, and the other goalkeeper is going to be the backup Brentford one. Now, the reason I've gone for the 4.5, I just think it's the best value for money. If you can secure a goalkeeper that has, you know, pretty good historic data for keeping clean sheets, and obviously, you know, XG conceded as well, which is a team like Brentford. They also manage to pick up points against the top 6 sides as well occasionally, and sometimes keep clean sheets as well, because realistically, that's where goalkeepers are making most of the points. When they go up against a team where they're absolutely battered, they make plenty of saves, somehow come away with a clean sheet and pick up the man of the match award. That's where you're getting the mega points from with goalkeepers. It's not against, you know, the likes of Sheffield United where they make one save and keep a clean sheet. That for me is why premium goalkeepers are just not worth their weight in gold. They're too much money, and they don't realistically put up like amazing points differences where it's like, oh well, that's, you know, that's definitely worth spending that extra million on. In my opinion, if you look at the likes of Raya last season and then look at the prices that are coming in at now, same with Jordan Pickford, Flecken wasn't too far behind these guys. I think he was like 20 points behind. For that extra million that you spend in this year to get Raya in, is it really worth it? Probably not, in my opinion. I think as well, Brentford will be a better defence this season. Obviously, they've got key players returning, the likes of Ben Mee and Ethan Pinnock as well. So I think that'll make them a much better side. He also still managed to pick up 31 points against the top 6 sides last season. Raya can't compete with that. So, you know, that's all I'm going to say on that one. Obviously, like I said, there is more videos out there explaining the reason I have gone for cheaper goalkeepers. But for me personally, I think the 4.5 million goalkeepers, we've been blessed with some very, very good ones this season. That is the way to go, in my personal opinion. Right, let's move on into the back line. We're going to start off with Gavardio first. Had a pretty good season last year, didn't he? Let's just say that. 6 goal involvements, 5.2 expected goal involvements in 26 starts is pretty good going, to be honest. Obviously didn't play all those games in his new kind of hybrid position where he's far up the pitch. As we saw, Manchester City have some pretty good expected clean sheet data as well. So that one feels like a very, very solid pick. I'm also looking at Andy Robertson in that 6 million price tag as well. 5 goal involvements for him, 6.3 expected goal involvement as well for Liverpool. And I think if he has a good pre-season, the fixtures are definitely there for Liverpool, so that one potentially might change to Andy Robertson. But for now, I'm sticking with Gavardio. Moving on to our next defender, it is Willy Bolly. Interestingly, Forest were one of the best teams for XG conceded last year in the Premier League. They've got pretty good clean sheet odds going into the opening 6 fixtures as well, and rotate extremely nicely with the other defenders in this team. So Willy Bolly, Aina and Murillo all get big shout outs from me. Moving on to our final defender in the starting 11, is going to be Munoz. Really decent season for him. He averaged an assist, one assist in every 4 games last year. Palace's opening fixtures are pretty decent. Again, we saw on the defensive clean sheet data as well, they are up there as one of the teams that are predicted to do quite well for clean sheets over the opening couple game weeks as well. So very, very happy to have him. A player that massively passes the eye test. I think if you were looking for another 4.5 million though, I think Anderson is the one to go for over Gahey. Moving on to our bench, let's have a quick run through of these guys. Robinson's in there. Again, Fulham were in that top 10 for clean sheets over the opening couple game weeks. They played two newly promoted sides within the first 3 weeks as well. So he'll be in the team for match day 2 and match day 3. And again, just rotates extremely nicely with the other defenders. Harwood Bellis, we're going to finish with him. He is in my opinion, probably the best 4 million defender. If we see Barco play decent minutes over pre-season with Estupiñán out, I think he could be a shout from Brighton. But for now, I'm sticking with Harwood Bellis. Right, let's move on into the midfield. We're going to start off with Anthony Gordon, joint second for most points at home last season. Good fixtures for Newcastle to start the year, up against the newly promoted side on the opening day. That, to me, sounds like a recipe for success. I don't think any more needs to be said on that one. Next player is going to be Eze. He's not going to have the captain. I put this the wrong way around. It'll be Salah who will have the armband for this week. But Eze's in here as well. 17 goal involvements in 27 games for him. It's now time for him to step up and be the talisman of the team. Obviously, last year I feel he was half responsible for that, with Michael Elise taking on the other half of the responsibility. He's now left, which I think will put him back on penalties and puts him on all free kicks and corners. So that to me seems like a no-brainer with some decent fixtures and at 7 million and his good record last season. Moving on to our captain for the first game week. Obviously, we spoke about it in the preview section. Liverpool as well, one of the highest teams for predicted goals in the opening game week as well. Some really, really tasty fixtures. And like I said, rotates extremely nicely with Erling Haaland, who obviously does feature a little bit later in this team. Moving on to our final midfielder, it is going to be Johnson. Now, I've been toying with him, Leon Bailey and Morgan Gibbs-White. I think all of them are fantastic options, but I think what Johnson gives me is a player that plays for Spurs. They were very, very good from an attacking standpoint as well. He, interestingly as well, had 0.66 goal involvement per 90 last season. Very, very good going for a 6.5 million player. I think as well, what he gives me is the ability to kind of wait and see which midfielders are performing well for Aston Villa as well. I could take the gamble on Leon Bailey, but at the same time, Morgan Rogers is there coming in at 5 million. Whereas what I can do with this, have 2 weeks, obviously abuse the good fixtures that Spurs have got for the opening 2 weeks and then switch on to an Aston Villa midfielder. Same, likewise, I could do the same with Morgan Gibbs-White. I know he's going to be proven, but as we'll come on to see, I already have a different Forest attacker within this lineup. So Johnson does complete the midfield in the starting 11. On the bench, it is Harry Winks. I've said this in a few videos. I think he's the best 4.5 million. He's probably very rarely going to enter the field of play for us, but for 4.5 million, he picked up 2 goals last year in 45 games in the Championship. Could be a decent little option, just mainly to sit on your bench. Right, let's move on to our front line. We're going to start off with Chris Wood. Interestingly, he's the third highest for predicted points over the 5 game weeks using Fantasy Football Hub's model. Like I said, link to a 7-day free trial down in the description, so if you want to go and check that out for yourself. 0.7 goals per 90 as well last season. Very, very good going from him. Obviously, Awoniyi now he's back in training, so I think that could potentially impact his minutes. We're going to have to see how that plays out over pre-season, but for now, I'm very, very happy to keep a bit of Wood in my team. Haaland, obviously, we've been speaking about him. We spoke about him in the last section. Still managed to have an amazing season and 1.23 goal involvement per 90, which is ridiculous, by the way, was last season what he put up. If he can do anything like that again over the opening couple game weeks, I think it makes him a nice, easy captain as well with Mohamed Salah, switching those two around. I think that to me just makes perfect sense. Moving on to our final player, it is going to be Alexander Isak. Again, offers a decent captaincy option for match day 1 if you're not looking at Haaland or Salah. Again, really, really good season for data and for stats. 0.83 goals per 90 and 6.83 points per 90 as well, which is absolutely ridiculous. Really, really good record at home as Newcastle had last season, and him and Anthony Gordon as well. So I'm expecting big things in the opening couple fixtures. They do have Spurs in match day 3, and something we could do is switch to Watkins with, you know, Aston Villa's really, really good fixture run coming in. Or what we could could do, and something that has crossed my mind, is just keep him, because Newcastle have got a great record against Spurs at St James's Park. That was my updated draft. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in the comments, as I will try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 1.